across rural Illinois. We decided after the 2020 election that we really needed to give a boost to groups throughout rural Illinois and help them, support them in supporting their candidates. So that is what we've been doing for the last year. And we are very, very excited tonight to focus on our very strong women in Illinois. Senator Duckworth is going to speak with us first, and then Comptroller Mendoza will speak with us a little bit later, and we will have some announcements in the middle. So I am going to turn it over now. We don't want to miss a minute with Senator Duckworth. So I'm going to turn it over now to Marcy, and she is going to introduce Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Sarah. Hey, go ahead. Can you turn on speaker view?
I have speaker view on.
Okay. This is Senator Duckworth. I took this from your official page, so I apologize if it sounds familiar. U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth is an Iraq War veteran, Purple Heart recipient, and former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, who was among the first handful of Army women to fly combat missions during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Senator Duckworth served in the Reserve Forces for 23 years before retiring at the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in 2014. She was elected to the House for 2 times until she was elected to the Senate in 2016. Let's welcome Senator Tammy Duckworth.
Thank you so much, Marcy. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody. Oh my goodness, I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you, Indivisible Rural Illinois, for letting me join you today. And I'm just so pleased to have been invited. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for your tireless work to elect Democrats up and down the ballot and for your unwavering support. You know, a little over a year ago, Donald Trump was still tweeting from the Oval Office and Republicans controlled the Senate. The last elections proved just how much we need people like you. People who don't just vote, but who volunteer to talk to their neighbors, send texts, make calls, and any number of other tasks to engage the rural communities that help swing these elections our way. Looking back on all that we've accomplished in just the last year, I know we couldn't have done it without your help. Thanks to your work and the work of thousands of like-minded Americans across the country, we elected President Biden, and our Democratic Congress was able to pass policies to help us recover from this pandemic, rebuild our nation, and bring our economy back from the brink. And I'm so proud of all the progress that we've made in spite of unprecedented, unanimous Republican obstruction. After getting shots in arms, checks in pockets to help us beat back this pandemic, the Democrats' American Rescue Plan, and it is the Democrats' American Rescue Plan because not a single Republican voted for it, is continuing to improve the lives and make remarkable strides in boosting our economy. Not a single Republican senator. Can you believe that? The unemployment rate is down to 4%, more than 3 years faster than experts expected. Over 6.6 million jobs have been created, the most since FDR's administration. And we're seeing the fastest GDP growth in nearly 4 decades. But we didn't stop there. We also worked across the aisle to deliver a generational infrastructure package. From Chicago to Cairo, the bipartisan infrastructure law will deliver at least $18 billion and is already helping us clean up our drinking water, fix our roads and bridges, cut congestions for quicker commutes, expand statewide access to high-speed internet, something that we really learned we needed during this pandemic, and create good paying local jobs and so much more. I'm really proud that the bipartisan infrastructure law includes provisions that I wrote to help us make our transit stations more accessible. And it also authorized my Drinking Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Act. And by the way, that act passed with 89 votes on the floor of the Senate. It will get lead out of our drinking water supply and help our municipalities to deal with upgrading our wastewater and sewage treatment facilities. Who knew that sewage was going to be such an important part of the work that I do in the Senate? But it sure is important if your sewer system doesn't work, right? So I'm so pleased that that was adopted into the law, and it's going to now be put into effect all across Illinois. With the American Rescue Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Democratic agenda is supporting working families and improving the lives of Americans everywhere, and will continue to do so for generations. But these accomplishments could not have been accomplished without Democrats' Senate majority. And this past year has proven that our razor-thin majority simply isn't enough. Senate Republicans continue to obstruct President Biden's agenda and keep us from voting on Voting Rights Act and sending even more help to struggling families across the nation. In the name of so-called election integrity, Republicans legislatures are working to disenfranchise voters across the country because they know they can't win on the issues, so they try to win by keeping people from getting to the ballot box. We're not going to give up. We're going to fight them back. Even though they're trying to return to a Jim Crow era, we're going to protect the right of people to vote. We're going to take actions on voting rights, and we're going to keep making progress on all the issues that we care about. I personally want to make sure that we get paid family leave, that we have universal pre-K, and that we get the child tax credit reinstated so that we can continue to lift those 40% of the kids who live in poverty out of childhood poverty. But the truth is, the deck is stacked against Democrat Senate majority going into this year's midterm. And Mitch McConnell and national Republicans are going to throw millions of dollars into contesting every race, including mine. And you know that they're going to try to flip the House. So your work in helping us flip any Republican seats into Democratic ones in rural Illinois will be critical, as well as helping us to keep those seats that are already Democratic. So we've got to energize, you've got to mobilize, you've got to get to work now. I know you're all doing it. I know you're going to do it every day until election day, and I'm going to join you in that. We've got to keep talking to our neighbors, fostering greater outreach, and we just have to let people know what's at stake from 2022 and beyond. To remind them that when it comes down to it, it was Democrats who rolled up their sleeves, who delivered checks into their bank accounts, who got their bridges fixed, who got their kids back in schools and their businesses reopened. It is Democrats who got shots in arms and making sure that Americans are able to get back to work. So thank you for letting me be here. I'm going to shut up and let us have some time for Q&A. And then, of course, you got Susana Mendoza, who's just going to like fire you all up so much before the end of the evening. And I just can't wait to see each and every one of you when we can get back out there campaigning in person again. Thanks, everybody. Let's get back to work.
All right, so Marcy is going to call on people in order and please make sure that you are on mute if you are not asking a question. So Marcy, who do we have asking a question first?
Elizabeth Kinney.
My question is, do you expect a carbon tax to pass this year?
If it does, it's going to have to be part of something else. I don't think it will be able to be passed on its own, but I do think that we can get to a carbon neutral future if we have a pathway that's agnostic. So, I say the most important thing is to set a carbon neutral date and then work towards that and have an all of the above approach. Carbon tax may be part of that, but also investing in more solar, investing in wind. There's going to have to be nuclear as part of that as well. That's what the scientists say. And so I think what we need to do is say, let's go with carbon neutral date and not budge from that, and we'll work towards it. I don't know that we get the carbon tax passed this year, but I know that it's going to be part of any discussion when we talk about a carbon neutral future.
Okay, oh, sorry. Next one is Mary Rachesek.
Hi, Mary. Where are you? I'm looking at you in my blocks. You're gonna have to talk so I can see.
I am. Can you see me now?
I can, Mary. How are you?
I'm good, Senator. How are you? It's nice to see you. I've met you before and I adore you. My question is more simple than anybody else's. I'm curious if you'll be having an office down here in the Carbondale area soon.
I have an office in the Carbondale area. I've had an office in Carbondale
where is it? Because
for 6 years.
Well, we went looking for you one time down at the Irma, the Hayes.
Yep.
And
yep,
the place was closed down. It was closed down, and now they're remodeling it.
Yeah, we have been there. They had to do some remodeling. You're right, but we're still there. And right now it's closed down because of COVID. And I'm having people work from home, but they're using COVID as an opportunity to remodel it. But yeah, we've been in the Irma Hayes Center for 6 years now.
Oh,
I
okay.
wanted-
Well, we
yeah.
went looking for you and we couldn't find you. And I guess that must have been when that happened.
Yeah, we because of the advice of the attending physician of the Senate, we closed all the offices down. So it had people telecommuting. We do go in every so often, but you have to make an appointment in order
okay.
to have somebody meet you there, just because of COVID protocols. But we're starting to have people come back to the office, and we'll be reopening it and staffing it during regular hours here. But we're sort of slowly moving into that as we get through the Omicron wave of the virus.
That's great. Well, we support you down here, Indivisible Shawnee. So just so you know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before the next question, oh, good. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we could get, I guess there are some people that are having trouble getting in. And so just a second, give me 1 moment, Senator. I apologize.
No worries. You know what? I could look at some of the chat questions if you want
Okay.
to work
I'll
on
tell you-
that, and I'll answer some of them. Or no?
Next one is Jim Mcgrath. Well, Jim Mcgrath is next, and we will figure this out. And we'll work it out. Okay.
We're friends. It's gonna work out.
Okay.
We're all friends. This is good.
Okay.
Hi, Jim. Where are you?
Hi,
Oh,
Senator.
I can see you.
Here I am.
Hi.
So, yeah, you kind of touched on this already, but we've been a big supporter of the Voting Rights Act, and just kind of a two-part question. Is there anything we can be doing to help? What do you think is going to change, if anything, in order to get it passed? It's so critical.
Well, we're negotiating on it right now. So it's really getting Republicans to vote on it. The problem we have right now is that we have about at least 10 Republicans that have been negotiating on not the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, because they're opposed to that, but there's a couple of other versions that Joe Manchin is leading up that, we Democrats have said, okay, listen, well, just for the sake of getting something passed, we'll support some of the things that we don't particularly care for, like voter ID cards and all of that. But, if that's what it takes to get Republicans on board, then we're willing to do that. And Joe Manchin has been talking to at least 10 and closer to 15 Republicans who are working with him and actively giving him inputs on any type of a voting act law. The problem is every time we try to put it on the floor so that we can begin debate, not just to pass it, but just to begin debate, not a single Republican shows up to vote for it, even though 10 to 15 of them have been actively working with Joe Manchin, and we've adopted their recommendations and their requirements. And I finally heard from some Republicans that said this is Mitch McConnell's red line. He's told his Republican members, you will not vote for any voting rights legislation. So there's two things there. The hopeful side is there are at least 10 to a dozen Republicans who have had significant input into one of the voting rights legislation that if they were able to vote for it, would vote for it. What can you do? If you have folks that in Kentucky, you're going to have to reach out and push really, really hard there because it is literally Mitch McConnell, one guy that has told the Republicans, you will not vote for this. And if you have folks that in Missouri, for example, some of the senators that are retiring, there's no reason why Roy Blunt shouldn't vote for this. He's one of the guys who's been very vocal about supporting voting rights, and reaching out to Joni Ernst in Iowa. And so if you have folks that can reach out to those senators, and you yourself can reach out to them as well, that's where we're going to make headway. But unless we get filibuster reform or we get 10 Republicans, we're not going to get to even do any work on this, unfortunately. But there is a bill that Republicans have had input on. They're just being told by their leadership that they are not allowed to vote for it.
That is so disappointing that's the approach he takes.
Yeah, he's evil. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
thank you.
He's evil. And you can tell the world that I said that. He calls himself the Grim Reaper.
You're on. I'll use that.
Okay. Next, we have Mary Taylor. Mary Taylor. Okay, well, I'll tell you, we'll come back to her if she comes on. Jay Gruber.
Remember when
Hello,
you're.
Senator Duckworth.
There-
It's
there.
lovely to have all of you here, and I see friends from Indivisible of mine on here. I want you to know that I'm very interested in the creative language that you may have added to the transit bill that you mentioned. I'm just curious what you put in there so I can say how clever you are and celebrate your expertise in being a person who suffered a disability, and is more power to you forever and always.
Oh, thank you. So I wrote the entire portion for the ASAP Act, the All Stations Accessibility Program. That's going to be $1.75 billion every year for 5 years in grants that will go to mass transit, commuter rail system, buses, to make sure that all of their stations are fully ADA accessible. And so if you ride on commuter rail, for example, in Southern Illinois to get into St. Louis, it should be fully accessible, and many of the rail systems are not. Buses as well, for if you are in some metropolitan areas like Champaign-Urbana or Bloomington. I mean, even the but some of those bus stations are not fully accessible. So I created the program and wrote the bill for it and fought for it. And so that money is there now. And what's great about that money, the creative language, is that I made sure that it could not be used for anything else. What happens with accessibility is that all of these public transit organizations really want to be ADA compliant. But at the end of the day, they have a small pot of money. And then if they have to choose between getting newer buses, safer buses, or spending money to put in curb cuts and make a station accessible, they will always choose safety, which they should. But what I did was I just made a new pot of money that was could only be used for accessibility. So this allows them to say, to not be, they can't use that money for anything else. And this was at the advice of the transit authorities. I said, what can I do to make this happen? They're like, make it a color of money that I can't use for anything else, and then I will use it for that, and that'll free me to use it for that. And so I'm very proud of that program. The other thing that I did also was I included language for transferability, transition from one mode of transportation to another, so that municipalities can, for example, have grant money that they can use where if you have the Amtrak station where Amtrak comes in, that they can improve the system and tie it onto a bike path or tie it onto an extended sidewalk to get you to the bus station, so that you have this improved transition between different modes of travel that will all be fully accessible as well. And hopefully they will link, so that you can always get around and not always, and whether you're on a bike path, you can go from a bike path to a sidewalk to the train station. And you can make your way around.
Thank you.
Okay, and it looks like we can go back to Mary now. She accidentally muted herself instead of turning on her mic. So Mary Taylor.
We've all done that.
Yes, yes. I was wondering about student loan cancellation, and is that something that Illinois is, trying to do? I know that Navient is supposed to be in their class action, supposed to be maybe eliminating some of the people in Illinois debt. So I was just wondering, did you know anything about that, and where it's at?
Yes. So yes, Navient is going to be canceling some student loan debt as part of their class action. In the Senate, so I don't know what the state of Illinois is doing, but I can tell you that in the Senate, there's two things that we're trying to do. I would like to forgive up to $50,000 in student loan debt for anybody who holds $50,000 or more. And in speaking with Elizabeth Warren, who's sort of the person who's the guru on this, and looking into it, if we forgave $50,000 of student loan debt, that would affect 80% of all the student loan all the people who have student loans, and our economy would just it would just would be, it would spur our economy, because people would be able to spend that money on other things like down payment for a home and all of the things that people who are stuck paying, $800 and $900 a month in student loan debt cannot afford to do. And so it would be transformative for this country, and especially for folks. And by the way, people think it's young people that hold student loan debt. I only paid off my student loan debt about 3 years ago when I was 50. So, people who are burdened by student loan debt for a very long time. And the only way that I paid off the student loan debt was because I got equity in my home and interest rates dropped, and I refinanced, and I was able to pull money out to pay off student loan debt. The other thing that we're doing, that Dick Durbin is heading up, is this whole bankruptcy issue, which is, you're not allowed to enter into bankruptcy with student loan debt. You can never discharge it. And this will allow people, if they need to go into bankruptcy to get rid of student loan debt. I don't, that's not the way I want people to solve it. I'd rather just forgive the debt, because it's going to actually, in the end, put money back into taxpayers' pockets. But those are two things that are being worked on in the Senate. I don't think either one has the support of Republicans. So the way we make this happen is if we can elect more Democrats to the Senate and keep the House, and then we'll get that moved.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Carl Brunn.
Senator Duckworth, thank you very much for being on with us this evening. My question is about the Republican caucus in the Senate. Are senators not allowed to express their own votes? Must they follow the leaders? Must they follow Mitch McConnell's guidance? I mean, I don't understand that.
They're always available. They can do their own thing, but they're choosing not to. They are doing two things. One, they're all afraid of Donald Trump. So they don't want to do anything that scares off Donald Trump. And that's why you see them voting in really horrendous ways that hurt their own constituents, because they are afraid that Donald Trump will primary them in their re-elections. So that's one. And then the other is Mitch McConnell holds a pretty tight rein on the Republicans. And he has said this is his red line. He allows them some flexibility here and there, but they pretty much toe the line with him. They're a pretty homogenous group. That the thing about Democrats is that our strength can also be the obstacle to us having the kind of success that we want. And our strength is our diversity. Our strength is that Democrats are so diverse, and that there are many different shades of Democrat, and it makes us stronger because we bring so many ideas to the table. But at the same time, it means that, you got a Joe Manchin or a Kirsten Sinema who are also Democrats, who then block our own progress as well. You wouldn't see that happening with Republicans. They move in lockstep. It's not a good thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next is Rose Calistino.
Hello, Senator Duckworth. Thank you so much for being here. We're all very interested in the appointment of the first African-American female justice to the Supreme Court. I myself am somewhat partial to Ketanji Brown Jackson, but I don't know too much about the other two. What can we do? At least I think there's a top three. What can we do to push that forward, streamline, make sure there's not a lot of obstacles?
Well, you should know that the person that's leading this is the best person, which is Dick Durbin. He's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. So if you want to send him a positive message, please do that. I think showing him love and showing him appreciation. I know we all love him. I love him. But showing appreciation for what he's doing, he's actually been keeping a pace of confirming justices that is historic in the number of justices that he's getting confirmed. And it's really fighting back against 4 years of really bad Trump appointees and nominations, judiciary nominations. So he's doing yeoman's work, but really reaching out to Dick and giving him the support that he needs. We're going to move this as quickly as possible, and we're going to make sure this person gets confirmed, whoever it is. Any one of the women that are on the short list would be more than well qualified certainly than some of the Trump nominees who are now on the Supreme Court. So we would be well represented there. You should know, here's a statistic. I may have the number exactly off, but I think we have 100, somebody Google this. I think we have 120 Supreme Court justices in our nation's history. I think that's how many there's been. And I think 115 of them have been white men. And I love white men. I'm married to one. But it's time that we had more diversity. And I'm glad that the president has made this commitment. And all of the top contenders are very well qualified. So I think it's, I think it's long past time when the Supreme Court looked a little bit like the American people.
You rock.
Very exciting. Thank you. We can certainly call Senator Durbin, all of us.
Yes, send him some love because he is working his butt off. He's working his butt off with judiciary. He's got that judiciary committee meeting 2, 3, 4 times a week, and just pushing these folks through in order to get them confirmed.
Awesome. Anyway, next one is Kathy Risberg. Kathy?
She was just here. I saw her.
Here, Senator Duckworth, thank you so much. What an amazing opportunity to be here with you today. One issue in the core of my heart is how we are responding to women experiencing domestic violence. So I just throw that out to you. What can we do to grow awareness of this problem? And I just recently read that from 2020 to 2020, 2020 to 2022, domestic violence increased by 142% during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering your thoughts.
Yeah, that is a very real statistic, and it's a really, really scary and sobering one. One of the things that we can do is we can actually reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act, which for some reason the Republicans have now decided that they can't reauthorize it. And we had a fight over this the last reauthorization was when I was in the House of Representatives, and you'll never guess what were the 3 reasons why the Republicans didn't want to reauthorize it. You are not, it is insane, the reasons. Number 1, they did not want to provide protections to tribal women. Yes, to Native American women who are on Native American reservations. Number 2, they did not want to provide protection to LGBTQ women because they said, well, how can you tell that they're women anyway? You can't verify that they're women, so they should get those protections. That was the second reason. Yeah. And let me think of what the third one was. Now I'm blanking on it. But that's the kind of reason why they were not going to authorize it. And we had to cut so many deals to get them to reauthorize it. The same issues are coming up again, and this is coming from Heritage Foundation, far right base of the Republican Party that is against the Violence Against Women Act. So much so that Republican senators who voted for it to reauthorize it previously are now not voting for it. Again, it goes back to Trump. It goes back to the very far right wing of their party. Similarly, with voting rights, by the way, there are 18 Republicans in the Senate today who voted for the Voting Rights Act the last time it came up and who are refusing to vote for it now.
Thank you.
Senator Duckworth, do you have time for one more question?
I think so. Yep. And then I got to go put my babies to bed.
Oh,
I'm in DC because we're in the middle of votes. So I got my girls out here. So yes.
While we're waiting for the next person to ask the question, could you just quickly tell the story of your 4-year-old that you told us as we were beginning tonight, because so many people have joined the call since then. I think it's so much fun.
So Miley Pearl, my almost 4-year-old, is such a COVID baby, and this is both hilarious and really, really sad at the same time. I didn't realize that she was such a COVID baby because when the shutdown happened, she was 18 months. She was 18 months old at the beginning of 2020. And so I've not taken her anywhere. She's not, because she can't be vaccinated. So she's not been to Target. I haven't taken her to a grocery store. She's home. Or she, is in preschool where they test weekly and everybody's in a bubble together. And at the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, when things got better before Omicron wave hit, my mother, who's 80 and moved in with us during COVID because I didn't want her living by herself, took her to a toy store. And it never occurred to us that she'd never been in a toy store. So this little 3-year-old was standing in the middle of the toy store going, hyperventilating, like, what? Like she was like a defector of the Soviet Union in an American grocery store for the first time. It blew her little mind. And she was just running from like stacks of toys to stack of toys, like, what is this place? And so it just sort of gave me an idea of what my life is going to be like once I can take her to Target and take her down the toys aisle. I am going to be in so much trouble when that happens because she's never seen one. But this is what they're going through.
It's such a fun story. Okay, we'll ask our last question. Marcy, who gets the honor to ask the last question tonight?
It is Gigi Trapp.
I feel like I've won to come on down.
Come on down, Gigi.
Caught me by surprise. So first of all, Senator Duckworth, I want to thank you and your office staff, especially Chad Phillips. He's here in Illinois. He has been amazing in addressing the concerns. I have a young Afghan interpreter friend who got left behind in Afghanistan because he didn't meet the criteria for the SIV. He worked for 10 months, and even when they reduced the criteria to having from 2 years to 1 year, he only worked for 12 months, so he did not make it. So he's done everything he knows, and he's very smart. He's jumped through every single hoop he possibly can, and he hits a brick wall every time. And I finally said to him, I said, Sadiq, let me email my senator, Tammy Duckworth. I said, I'm just a ordinary woman in Southern Illinois. I have no special pull. I said, but she will at least be sympathetic to your case because she's a veteran. She lost a leg in Iraq. She knows where you're coming from. Not only did Chad email me that day, he called me. And it wasn't just, thank you for your concern. We're working as hard as we can. Like some might say, he had point by point by point of, has he done this? Has he done this? And I cannot express to you our thanks bigly enough, to use a terrible Republican term. But I just want to know, is there any movement on this besides what I have already seen? Because now this young man is working for the World Food Project. I don't know if you've seen the pictures or food program. He has sent pictures with all these children with Post-it notes on their hands, thanking you, thanking me, thanking the World Food Program and the Hungarian Interchurch Aid, because that's who's feeding them. So if there's any movement on that, I hope I'll know and that he will know.
Yeah, we're doing everything that we can. In fact, I personally approached both. We had a briefing from Secretary Austin, the Secretary of Defense, and Secretary Blinken, our Secretary of State, last week. And I personally brought up the Afghan who have been left behind, not the SIV folks, but the folks who helped us and who are stuck. And many of them, by the way, are hiding in basements because the Taliban's hunting them and trying to kill them. And so, yes, I am working at my level trying to get that through. You should know that it's a very specific group of staff members that are working on my Afghan casework, and they volunteered for it because it has been grueling. It's been grueling. And when we were still airlifting people out, I had to have counseling sessions for my staff members with post-traumatic stress. They were so vested in it. They were up. I mean, I had to tell people to go to bed. They were up until all day, all night. And they're like, this person is going to die. And I got to get them out. This is how vested my staff were. And I was just like, we're doing everything that we can. And I was on the phone calling, guys that I knew who were in Afghanistan, and we were all working as hard as we could. So just so know that Chad is part of an elite group of my staff members who specifically work Afghanistan issues. And yeah, I'm not surprised by your comments about him, because that's exactly what every one of those staff members are doing. So much so that I've had to, pull them off the line a couple of times and order them to stand down for a day and take a day off because they were burning themselves out. And they felt personally like this person is going to die if I don't do something. And a lot of trauma for the staff as well. But we're doing everything that we can. And I am doing everything that I can as well. We're not going to give up. And I'm working with not-for-profits that are flying airplanes in there and getting people out, chartering their own flights. We're working hard to open up more airports other than just the one in Kabul.
Yeah.
In order to get more airplanes in and out and get people out of the country, and then some overland routes as well. But we're trying very hard. And then I'm also working hard to get funds to the not-for-profit agencies. I don't support releasing Afghanistan's funds that we're holding to the Taliban, because they're just going to abuse it. I would rather we release those funds to like these not-for-profits, like Care International, like the Hungarian group, the groups that actually I know will actually get the money and have the network in order to deliver the goods.
Well, I can't tell you thank you enough. And ask chat if you have not seen these pictures of these children, and he lines them up and he's bringing joy to them and laughter along with food and aid. And they all have these little notes on their hands thanking good people everywhere, no matter where they are. And then other ones will have notes on their hands saying Tammy and Chad and me, because I emailed you. And I just think that's good energy. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for taking this on as well. And if any of you can help, there's Afghans coming. Illinois is taking a huge number. And so there's lots of resettlement agencies that could use help. Everything from cribs to helping people find jobs or learning to drive, and then passing a driver's license test. So
Right.
there's something that we can all do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Duckworth, we just can't thank you enough. You're so warm. You came to Sterling and I got to meet you there, and you told such great personal stories. And, we appreciate all that you do for our country. And, but it's always so nice to meet someone who's a person, a mom who has those great stories. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. We do appreciate it, and we'll let you get your girls to bed now.
Yep, that's my very next thing. As soon as I hang up here, it's going to be, kids, go brush your teeth and potty. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much, Senator Duckworth. Okay, so that was wonderful. I think we can all agree. What an uplifting night. What a great time. So now Marcy is going to take charge again for a few minutes, because we have some announcements to squeeze in before Comptroller Mendoza comes on. So, Marcy.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. And yeah, Senator Duckworth was just awesome. Okay, so we have some announcements of upcoming events. And first one I will talk about, every Saturday from 4 to 5:30, Indivisible Illinois pairs up with the Wisconsin Democratic Party, and we phone bank into Wisconsin, asking Democratic voters to please get their vote. Well, I guess it's absentee ballots in Wisconsin. In Illinois, it's vote by mail ballots. In Wisconsin, it's absentee ballots. So yes, so we do that every Saturday, 4 to 5:30. I have a link that I'm just putting in the chat right now. And we could really use phone bankers by about the end of March, since in Illinois we'll be able to get our vote by mail ballots. We are also going to add Illinois' VPB links to it. So we will be calling in both Wisconsin and Illinois by that time. And please, everybody, sign up. We really could use more phone bankers. Next one we're going to have is we're going to have Rose Calistino talk about the Social Justice Alliance subgroup and their meeting on Saturday.
Hello, everybody, again, and happy to invite you to an event hosted by Indivisible Illinois Social Justice Alliance, as well as NWSOFA. And I just want to give you some reasons why, with everything requesting your time, why you should most definitely come to this one. Here's some research, love myself some research from the database Insurrection Index 222. People who participated in the January 6th Capitol attack are either elected officials or currently running for office. Hundreds more local Republican Party leaders and influential stakeholders enabled or encouraged the riot. And since that day, those same people and their networks have redirected their anger at local governments, protesting school boards, as well as city councils, county health boards, and other local officials. So these people are trying to build long-term sustainable power from the ground up. Once they take over school boards and city councils, they can determine what kids learn, how towns are governed, and ultimately rewrite the rules to ensure no pro-democracy leader can win national power again, let alone a leader who cares about things like raising the minimum wage, accessible health care, affordable childcare, reproductive health rights, so on and so forth. We have an opportunity for you to do something about it. We have here our speakers. I see Jim Mcgrath in one of the squares, and I don't see her, but I know she's here. I see her name, Joyce Lebeck. They have been doing a phenomenal job, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but about 7 presentations. All seats are filled. 7? All seats are filled, so get there early if you can, because Jim and Joyce have not only been educating us, but also telling us what we can do. So I hope that you will join us. I will put the link in the chat. It is Saturday at noon, and it is an experience that you won't regret, and I assume that you're going to become a regular if you come to this one and you haven't been before. So thanks for this opportunity, Sarah and Marcy.
Okay, and the last announcement we have is from Candace Davis. She is in the Indivisible Illinois Truth Brigade. She's one of the co-leads, and she's going to talk about next week's Indivisible Illinois statewide meeting.
Thanks. Yeah, we're very excited. Next Wednesday, 7:30, Eric Bollert of Press Run Media is going to join us. He has a commentary on the mainstream media press that's really excellent, that he puts out several times a week. I encourage you all to take a look at it. He'll be joining us as well as Jody Rain from National Truth Brigade. We're going to have a little chat with her about National Truth Brigade's new, what they call 2.0. So I will also put that in the chat, but please sign up for that. I think it's going to be a really interesting meeting.
Thank you, Candace. And it's going to be a few minutes till Comptroller Mendoza is here. Not too many minutes, but a few. And so Sarah's going to lead us in talking about women.
We realized after, frankly, we'll be honest, after we set up this very exciting event, that that the International Day of the Woman is March the 7th. And so just consider yourselves that you are prepared a little ahead of time for that International Day of the Woman. And we want to recognize tonight that women face particular and unique challenges when they are candidates for public office. There are many things that make it more difficult for women to achieve public office. We have seen examples of that. We've seen examples of things like the pink tax that some have talked about, that women have to take so much more time to get prepared. But I wanted to read you kind of an alarming quote. This is from Peter Thiel. I'm not sure if you know who he is. He used to be on the board of Meta, which is the group that oversees Facebook. And he has resigned from that position because he is spending his billions and his time supporting candidates who are in favor of Donald Trump's candidates. So this is what we're facing. And this is a quote from him. He says that he deplores the extension of the franchise to women that was given after 1920. So here is someone who is donating and supporting Trump candidates who believes that women need to go back 100 years. So we really have some incredible challenges, all of us, all of the Democratic candidates, but particularly women. And I think we need to give our strong support to our female candidates. I'm wondering if any of you would like to put, is the comptroller with us yet? I saw that Jack Londergan is here, but you'll give me the high sign, won't you, Marcy, when she gets here?
Yep, she'll be on shortly.
You're here just a little bit early. It's good to meet you, Jack. Jack is on Comptroller Mendoza's staff, and he is the one who helped us arrange to have her here tonight, and she'll be jumping on in just a few minutes. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So I'd like for you to maybe put some ideas in the chat, some things that you feel make it particularly challenging for women when they are running for elected office. Just give that a little bit of thought as we're thinking of supporting the wonderful Senator Duckworth, who just spoke with us, and we're going to be supporting the wonderful Comptroller Mendoza when as she's running for election in 2022. So what are some of the things that that come to your mind? And I'll just read some of these. Respectability, women are held to a higher standard. Let's see what other things. And somebody is saying this is why we really need to ratify the ERA on a federal level. Absolutely. This is something many people in Illinois have worked very hard to get past. Being a liberal woman with a public opinion is considered disrespectful. Oh my goodness, isn't that something? So any other thoughts about the particular challenges that face female candidates for public office? Any thoughts you'd like to put into the chat? Maybe Jack can chime in on this. We'll put you, we'll put you on the stage here for just a minute. What would you say are some of the challenges that particularly face, for example, Comptroller Mendoza as she's running?
Well, in my experience, I've only ever managed races or worked on campaigns where women were the candidates. And what you find is a lot, like you described, that there's just a double standard, that because, when you ask individuals to, reference female politicians, they have like a shorter frame of reference because, for example, like when my mom was running, I would quite frequently hear her compared to Elizabeth Warren and Nancy Pelosi and Secretary Clinton. And while I do not, I would consider any of those compliments, I just didn't think it was necessarily accurate. I think it was just because, people didn't have a frame of reference. So I have noticed, a greater inclination for people to be critical. So at least, from what I've seen from my perspective, there is a double standard.
And then somebody has written here in the chat that men tend not to give money to women, or they don't support women financially. And then there's some discussion here on age discrimination against women. Somebody said that, let's see, Kathy said that she just heard about an article that indicated that authoritarian governments do not favor women as candidates. I wonder what authoritarian government we might be talking about here. Cyber stalking and hate speech is daunting for candidates and traumatizing for their families and staff. That would be true for men and women, but of course, that's something that everybody needs to consider. Oh, and then we have a comment here about criticisms about appearance, and that's kind of what I was referring to when we were talking about the pink tax, that there's always a bit of a criticism about women's appearances. And then scrutiny toward marital and childbearing status. So yeah, lots of different challenges that we might be facing here. Okay, so we're still looking for the comptroller. Yeah. Do we know when the comptroller might be joining us, Jack?
Within the minute.
Okay, all right, then what I'm going to do is go ahead and turn it back over to Marcy, because she would like to give us some introductory comments about Comptroller Mendoza. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Marcy.
Well, I'll wait till she gets in, but I'll tell you what, I am interested in all of the insights that people have had in the chat also. Like the last one is that women have, there's so much condescension and criticisms, and just shrillness. So, and another one is females are criticized for expressing emotions. And actually, men, I think, express emotions actually a lot more than women do. That's my own opinion, just because maybe they're not the same emotions, but I think they're much more apt to have them. So anyway, but one thing I will mention before the comptroller gets in is I do have some comments about her that a good friend of mine has had to work with her and loves her, and I just want to let you know what she said about Comptroller Mendoza. My good friend is Cindy Cunningham, and she is a consultant for senior home care agencies. And she's actually running for state rep in the Illinois 104. So anybody who is in the Illinois 104, just an FYI. But she lobbies for those senior home care agencies in Springfield. And she said that her clients, like even before the budget impasse, they used to wait many months before getting state reimbursements. But since Comptroller Mendoza has been in office, they now usually get paid within 30 days. Believe it or not, in the state of Illinois, people are getting paid within 30 days. Isn't that awesome? And that was never the case. She said she has been doing this since the 1990s, and she has never seen that happen before. So, and she also mentioned that in her interactions with Comptroller Mendoza, that she has found that she is innate, and this is Cindy. She basically says she's an innately kind person. So it's like, that is high praise from her. So I just wanted everybody to know that. So even though I hope that Jack tells Comptroller Mendoza that this is the appearance she's making to people, because it's wonderful. So anyway, and hopefully she'll be here pretty soon, and then we can just tell her. So yep. So anyway, so. Go ahead.
We can read a few more of these comments, because there are so many good comments here about things that particularly challenge female candidates for elected office. And there's one here that is a sad one, but sexual threats. Of course, that's a very difficult and scary thing. Gender bias, even in journalism and newsrooms, enforces bias and decreases credibility. And females are criticized for, we talked about emotions. Yes, that's one that comes up a lot. Yeah. And let's see, Nicole is saying that she ran for a local position last year, and she found having a strong group of supporting people in her corner helped her stay focused on the issues and not be as affected by misogyny, personal attacks, and microaggressions. Wow.
Oh, hey, you know what? We've just had a suggestion that if anybody has some events coming up, do they want to make an announcement? Maybe, raise the little yellow hand, the little, that you have in reactions. Is there anybody that have events coming up? Because we talked about the Indivisible Illinois events, but we didn't talk about anybody else's. So just like, I'm talking about the little yellow hand for reactions, the raise hand, because I can't see you otherwise. Okay. Okay, well, I guess not. So, but if any,
There she
there she is.
And
Here
just
she is.
in time.
We're so happy
We'll
to
give
have
her a minute to get on. She's Comptroller Mendoza is now coming on. So as soon as she's with us, then we will hear.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We're so excited to
Hi,
have you.
Marcy.
Hello. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us. I think, Marcy, did you want to do a quick introduction and then
Yes.
we'll turn it over to Comptroller Mendoza.
Yes, yes. Actually, before you came here, I was giving some impressions that my good friend Cindy Cunningham had of you, and they were wonderful. By the way, yeah. So she, you know, I'll just let you know since I'm telling you about him anyway. She's as I mentioned to everybody, my friend Cindy Cunningham was a consultant for senior home care agencies and is also running for state rep in the Illinois 104. Lobbies for those senior home care agencies in Springfield, and she said that her clients, even before the budget impasse, they used to wait many, many months before the state reimbursed them. But since you've been in office, she said they've been getting paid within 30 days. That, you know, so, and these are people that keep the seniors in their homes, the ones that, so they don't have to go to nursing homes. So you really want to keep those in business. She said it's awesome. And she also mentioned that whenever she's had to deal with you, she felt that you were a really, really kind person. So anyway, so and I'll just read a little bit of an introduction that I got from your official page. So this is going to sound pretty familiar to you. Okay, Illinois Comptroller Susana Mendoza was initially elected in a special election in 2016. She was reelected in 2018. She became controller, and since she became controller, she has transformed the office, shifting priority to the funding of nursing homes, hospice centers, schools, and the state's most vulnerable citizens during this, since the state's 2-year budget impasse. Although the comptroller is charged with paying state's bills as they arrive, the budget crisis forced the office to prioritize which bills would be paid first. During this period, the comptroller became an advocate for stability, comprehensive budget solutions, and open and transparent financial reporting, winning accolades from agencies that rate the state's bonds. Let's welcome Comptroller Susana Mendoza.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing that story, Marcy, about Cindy, because it's, I have to tell you, it's been my greatest pleasure to be able to put our vulnerable populations at the front of the line, you know, and there's nothing that makes me happier than knowing that we're taking care of the most vulnerable people in our state, because I think if we do nothing else right as a state, we should be taking care of our most vulnerable people first and foremost, right? So it's been the moral compass that the controller's office needed, which was completely out of whack before I got elected. But with your help, we've been able to really help a ton of people in Illinois, and that makes me very happy. And to her comment that I'm a very kind and nice person, that's super awesome to hear, but I bet you Bruce Rauner might think differently. So, but you know, always fun. Those days remind me of the fun times where I got to beat him up all the time. But I will say it's great to see you. I apologize for coming on late. I had an event prior to this, and I'm bummed that I got to miss my good friend Tammy Duckworth, our great senator, but I'm sure she was probably riveting and fabulous as always. And it's hard to have to, you know, come on after Tammy Duckworth had your attention. So I will do my best to not bore you all, and hopefully we'll have a good event tonight. But I'm super thrilled to be with you, all you badass women. And Sarah, hello, I see you there. And thank you for the invitation. I know Jack worked hard to make this happen. All he had to do was ask. And I was like, yes, of course I want to hang out with you ladies. But I hope everyone's doing well. I'll start by saying happy Wednesday, right? Today is Wednesday. I'm in Springfield right now. And it's fun to be back here. We actually had an in-person event just a little bit ago, and that felt weird, but cool at the same time. And I know that, you know, the last couple of years have been very difficult, and they've tested us in so many ways unanticipated, right? I mean, none of us could have seen what happened coming. But I will tell you that it truly has been my distinct honor with your support, because you were all there for me when I was running back in 2015, trying to take on Governor Rauner's handpicked appointee, you all remember. But with your support, you know, I've been able to serve as Illinois Controller, your Chief Financial and Accountability Officer, during what now have actually been not one, but the two largest fiscal crises in our state's history. The first, of course, being the financial destruction that was brought upon our state by Governor Rauner in his failed quest to crush organized labor. That's what this was all about, crazily enough, in his attempt to try to make Illinois a right-to-work state. The second crisis, of course, we all know, is the COVID-19 pandemic. But, it's important to remind people, I know people say, oh, why do you keep talking about Rauner? But it's really important to remember that we have to, this was not that long ago, right? We have to remember where we are today. But in order to talk about the successes of today, we still need to talk about what we inherited going into, the Rauner era, and now where we are today and what it took to get out of it, because we're still living with the consequences, unfortunately, of his failed policies. I mean, this is a governor who ran up an unconscionable bill backlog of $16.7 billion. He turned the state's vendors, folks like nursing home providers or people caring for the elderly, into unwilling lenders to the state. Because when she talked about waiting to get paid, a god-awful amount of time, it's not just about she had to wait to get paid. What did the state actually do to people like Cindy or other home health care providers or anyone dealing with any aspect of state contracting? Is the state turned, Governor Rauner specifically, turned all of these folks into unwilling lenders to the state of Illinois and making them wait endless months to get paid and putting so many people out of business. It was really super tragic. Frankly, he unforgivably destroyed our credit rating by earning 8 consecutive credit downgrades. Here's the kicker: during the best economic bull market in our country's history. So 8 credit downgrades in a row during the best of financial times of our lifetime. He destroyed the state's safety net, which is of course the worst thing, right? I mean, hurting millions of people in Illinois who relied on critical state services. And obviously, as I mentioned, devastating the businesses that cared for them. And remember, this is the same guy who cut autism funding on World Autism Day. I mean, you really can't make up a more incredible villain. So that's what I walked into when I became your controller. And I promised you back in 2016 that if you helped me get elected, I would fearlessly take him on. I'd fight out of my weight class every single day. And I'd make sure that my first 2 years in office as controller would be his last. Then I'd clean up the mess that he left behind. And I would like to say very proudly that mission accomplished. We are just starting to turn things, actually, we were just starting to turn things around when, of course, the pandemic struck. Now we have a new governor, and boy, what a difference with a new governor. A good governor makes such an incredible difference in the state. But, Governor Pritzker and I were now moving everything. We were continuing the forward momentum that I started even before he took office. And we thought everything was looking great. And then, of course, COVID-19 hit. And naturally, the markets, which we always have to be very conscious of here in Illinois, got scared of the unknown. And all the states in the nation saw their credit ratings impacted negatively. And I assured the markets at that time that as controller, nothing had changed fundamentally in how I was managing the state's finances. I was in control. I would remain steadfast. And between you and I mean, honestly, like the worst virus to ever hit Illinois' finances, it was not COVID, it was Bruce Rauner. So if I could get through that and I could get our state through that, if I could clean up his mess, there was nothing coming at me that I couldn't handle. So I could sleep at night, and you should be able to, knowing that I had everything under control. Now, good news is that I'm super proud to report that I've brought the state's backlog of unpaid bills down from the horrendous $16.7 billion that it was then to about $3.5 billion today without using federal stimulus funds. And this is really important. I can't hammer this point home enough. You're going to hear all the naysayers out there say, well, of course, Mendoza paid down the bill backlog. She got a boatload of federal aid or bailouts or whatever they want to call them. No, that is not true. I actually, over the last 5 years, have been paying down the bill backlog religiously. Just so you know, a lot of people might say, well, how did you do it? If you didn't use federal money, how did you do it? Well, more than a couple years ago, back in 2017, even before Governor Pritzker was governor, I had to fight Governor Rauner to do a bond deal for the state of Illinois. And I went to every single editorial board across the state because he was out there saying that there's no way we were going to do this deal, that the controller is just a spender and a borrower, whatever, and that we shouldn't do this. And I kept saying, it makes no sense to not do this. By not doing the bond deal, we were burning about $2 million in interest payments every single day because this guy racked up a $16.7 billion bill backlog that we were paying 12% interest on. It was obscene. He had racked up, besides the $16.7 billion bill backlog, an additional $1.104 billion in late payment interest penalties for being such a deadbeat. So, my goal at the time was to pass or to actually, do a bond deal, $6 billion worth of bonds that we could sell and essentially refinance what we were paying 12% interest on down to an amazing deal that we got of 3.5%. And so we got that bond deal done. He hated that I had to shame him into doing it through editorials and all kinds of negative press on him. But it was absolutely a great deal for taxpayers, being able to bring down our $6 billion worth of bills that we were paying 12% interest on and refinance that to 3.5% is kind of like if I told you, if I could refinance your home from 12% to 3.5%, would you take that deal? And no sane person would say no to that. Of course. Why? Because you'd save hundreds of thousands of dollars on your average home. When we're talking about billions of dollars, we're actually saving billions of dollars over the 12-year period of this loan. So great deal for taxpayers, but more importantly than what $6 billion was, is let's talk about what it meant. $6 billion right after the budget impasse meant millions of people in Illinois seeing automatic relief. It meant nursing homes who hadn't been paid in 9 months seeing money rush into their nursing homes to help take care of those seniors. It meant parents who had to pay out of pocket to give their children critical services or speech therapy or autism therapy. It meant that they actually didn't have to pay out of pocket anymore because the state was able to pay those providers. It meant universities didn't have to see their credit rating slip because we were able to make sure that they continue to make their payments to debt service. So, it was immediate, the help that I was able to put into the market with $6 billion, but more importantly, I sought every single bill that I could find that would give me a federal match to each state taxpayer dollar. So to walk you through this, when people say, well, how'd you do it? Well, I took $6 billion and I found every single match I could. And back in those days, in 2017, if I paid a Medicaid bill, the federal government would give me 50 cents for every state dollar that I paid of Medicaid. So I took $6 billion and matched them all with an extra 50 cents, turned $6 billion into $9 billion, but it only cost the state $6 billion. And that $9 billion was a total, you could almost think of it like an economic stimulus, because that's what the effect was, because people hadn't seen a budget for 736 days. So this was the beginning of Illinois' financial turnaround. And I am so proud that I fought Bruce Rauner on that I forced him into doing the deal, and that we really started putting the Illinois back on a better fiscal footing. And so, being able to help folks back then and continue that forward momentum, get rid of Bruce Rauner, bring in a governor who wasn't hell-bent on destroying the state's finances, but would serve as a partner for me, has been so helpful. And we went from having the average wait time to get paid by the state of Illinois being 210 days when I took office. And today, my oldest bill in the controller's office is only 14 days old. That is the fastest payment cycle in over 20 years out of the controller's office. And my work, it has directly contributed to earning our first credit upgrades in over 20 years. By the way, in the middle of a global pandemic. So if you're taking notes, let's compare with the other guys, 8 consecutive credit downgrades, 210-day wait to get paid, $16.7 billion in debt for bills not paid during the best financial market of our lifetimes. Fast forward to today, our team, right? And I will say with me in the lead as your controller, you better believe I'm going to take credit for all of the hard work that I have done over the last, not 2 years or 3 years, but 5 years, starting with my days beating up Bruce Rauner and speaking truth about what he was doing to our state, and then implementing solutions like the bond deal that got us on our path. And it's important that we take ownership of this, because it's the Democrats who have actually cleaned up the mess that we inherited. I don't have to wait 210 days like they did. My folks are getting paid in 14 days today out of the controller's office. And we earned 2 credit upgrades in the middle of a global pandemic. Not in the best times, in the worst fiscal crises, I managed to turn things around. And I believe there is nothing we can't do in this state if we have the right people in charge. Now, I was late tonight because I was so honored to be the first person to ever be honored with the Margaret Blackshear Award from the AFL-CIO tonight. And I'm sure there's women on this call who know who Margaret Blackshear was. She was an absolute pioneer in organized labor. She was the first woman president of the AFL-CIO. She was amazing. And I was so lucky and blessed to know her and consider her a mentor. Can you believe it? When I was 28 years old, just a freshman state representative back then, she had just been elected president of the AFL-CIO, a completely male-dominated field. She was in charge. And I got to meet her and be mentored by her like so many other women in the legislature were. And for me, being a 28-year-old Hispanic kid, essentially, some of my colleagues had shoes older than I was, right? And to be able to learn from someone like Margaret Blackshear, who was in charge of all these guys, right? It was probably the most important, role model to have in real life at a time when I really needed someone to reflect myself off of, right? To say, wow, she could do this. Anything is possible. You make your way through life. Nobody gave Margaret Blackshear anything. She earned it. And I'll say the same is true about me. Nobody ever gave me anything. I've never been appointed to anything. I've had to run hard and work hard and earn my bones every step of the way. And learning from Margaret that women need to seek power, not for ourselves, but because what we do when we have that power for others. Get this, women in power actually help other people. And that is something that we should all be proud of as women working to protect not just women, but working men and women, children, families, everybody. And for me, as the daughter of like a union pipe fitter and the daughter-in-law of a union electrician who raised 9 kids off his salary as a union electrician, to me, organized labor is super important. And I'm super honored about tonight's award. And 2 years ago, I don't know that you guys know this, but 2 years ago as controller, I signed an executive order that actually protects prevailing wage. And as you know, men and women in organized labor fought super hard to make sure that Illinois was a prevailing wage state. And my executive order actually enforces that. It doesn't just talk about how we should be a prevailing wage state. And if you break the rules, oh, well, I actually enforce them. And you know what? It took a woman to get that done. My enforcement order, it has strong teeth, it bites hard. And it basically says this: if you're a state vendor working on a public works project, you're getting paid with state taxpayer dollars. Those are all your dollars on the call here. And I catch you cheating our workers, guess what? You're going to have hell to pay, because I am not going to pay you a penny more on that contract until you make those workers whole. And that is what happens, again, when you have people in positions of power where they use those levers to help other people. They're not paying me and they're not shortchanging me. They're supposed to be paying those workers. And when they shortchange them, those workers, just like our vulnerable populations and just like everyone else who's a taxpayer in this state, know that they have a controller who's standing up for them and working hard for them. So, you know, the days of cheating our workers, that ended when you helped elect me. And I'm going to go out there and protect men and women in organized labor in every aspect of job, employment, and security here in Illinois. And there's so many things that you can do when you have positions of power, whether it's in the controller's office or in the US Senator's office or in the governor's office, you name it. And frankly, I'd like to see women in all of those offices. So today, this call really is about badass women who are involved in politics and want to leave their mark and making a difference. And I can't tell you how inspiring it is for me to be able to join a call tonight, especially after having very gratefully accepted this award from the AFL-CIO. But it's still, even though women make up 50% almost of all positions in organized labor today, membership positions, right? Organized labor is made up of almost 50% women. That room tonight was still pretty full of men, right? And so I was channeling Margaret Blackshear. There's a woman there. There's maybe like 20 women in that whole room. We need to see more of us in all of these positions, whether it's in leadership positions in organized labor, whether it's in leadership positions elected, whether it's in leadership positions in the public sector in any position. But, you know, I just want to thank you for all of your work and dedication and helping propel women to the next level. And you guys are the ones that really inspire us to go out there and kick butt, you know? So just know every time I'm out there picking on the boys, I feel like I got your back and I'm channeling all of you because you Indivisible women are pretty amazing. And I just want to give you kudos for your hard work and for staying engaged, even in the face of all this craziness out there in politics these days. But we need you now more than ever. So thank you for your support. I hope I can continue to have it as we take on this next challenge. You know, Ken Griffin's got a whole slate of people that they're going to be funding crazy amounts of money. I've been through that again. You know, I was there in 2016. They spent 11 million bucks against me. It was one of the most expensive races in the country. And I am here today as your controller. So I'm going to keep fighting hard. They might outraise me, but they won't outwork me. But I am going to ask you ladies to get behind me and let's keep making great things happen here in the state of Illinois. Thanks so much for having me tonight. And if you have any questions, I am all ears.
Well, we have several questions in the chat, Comptroller. Thank you. That was awesome. And actually it reminds me of in 2018, I went to the Women's March in Springfield because I live in Champaign and we didn't have one in Champaign. And you were you were the speaker that I remember. You were the speaker that I remember the most. So anyway, but we have several questions in the chat. The first one is from Jermaine Light. Jermaine? Well, okay, well, okay, next one is Terry Marr.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready if you want me to go.
Okay,
go ahead.
Let's do Jermaine since she was really first. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had to get out of chat. It took me a minute. So Susana Mendoza, you are just fantastic. I am honored to be able to ask you a question. Humbled and honored.
Fun. No way. Come on. Yeah, shoot. Hi, Jermaine.
I was wondering if there's any way, you're so smart, is there any way you could get some good quality union jobs in downstate Illinois? We have a poverty problem.
You have a what problem?
It's causing violence. No, a problem with poverty.
Oh,
people don't have enough money, and it causes violence problems and everything.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Listen, I spend a lot of time. I actually live in Chicago, but I spend a lot of time downstate. I probably spend more time traveling the state than I do back home. I think my husband and little 9-year-old would attest to that. But I do think we need to really spend a lot of time rebuilding Southern Illinois. You know, you can look at it from the perspective of, you know, how sad it is to see what's happened in that region of the state, or you could also look at it as an opportunity to build anew. Right. And I think that the last few years, just to put this in perspective, my first 2 years were all about, like, I don't want to say I was playing defense because I was 100% on the offensive against Rauner. Right. And I think it was instrumental in having him no longer be our governor today. And at the same time, even during those very challenging times I was implementing huge transparency reforms in state government with our finances that helped me now to be able to better manage the finances because I can see them so much better. And traveling the state at the time, I did that a lot, but it was usually because I was trying to keep businesses, you know, alive from going under. I literally used to get phone calls from grown men who were suicidal, who were about to lose everything they had built over 20 or 30 years of their lifetime because the state wasn't paying. And so my listening tour back then was more of like an emergency lifeline, right? Does that make sense? Where I felt like I was so underwater, like, and I can relate to what people were feeling when you have a $17 billion backlog and you have no money to pay it, right? Because there's no budget. So it was really like performing miracles every day and just trying to keep people alive during those 2 years of Rauner. When the bond deal went through and they finally passed a budget, it was just an amazing relief. But we still had a lot of fixing to do. And so I kept telling people, you know, people said, oh, just give up on Illinois. You know, there's no way you're going to recover from this. You know, 8 credit downgrades, 17 billion in debt. There's no money. Like, you guys are toast. And I kept saying, well, never give up on Illinois. I'm certainly not going to give up on Illinois. I didn't run for controller to see my state go down in flames. It was the opposite, right? I knew we could fix Illinois and we could improve it. So I always think that no matter how dire the situation seems, it can always get better if you have the right people there. So I think of Southern Illinois like Radiator Springs. Do you guys ever see Cars? I have a little kid, so trust me, I've seen every Disney movie. And Cars, specifically places like Cairo, Illinois, which used to be these like booming meccas in our state, which are now like just disappeared, and it's heartbreaking to go there and see what's happening. But you think you could let it get you down and just give up, or you could say, we could be like Lightning McQueen, you know? And I told the governor this when he was running for governor. I'm like, you got to get out to Cairo and see what it is today and what it used to be, just so that you can understand what it could be in the future, right? And we have an opportunity to, if we do this right, get out of this mess that Rauner put us in, that we inherited, you know, come up for air, and then take a good look and really analyze where we are as a state and say, where can we continue the forward progress where it's really going to make an impact? And to me, Southern Illinois, instead of getting sad about it, I mean, trust me, Jermaine, I do get sad about what I see because I feel bad for the folks who are living it right now. But I also get inspired and like redouble my efforts to know that what we just did, you know, what nobody would have thought 5 years ago, that today I'd be telling you my oldest bill is 14 days old, and that I did it without using federal stimulus money, and that we've really fixed a lot of the fundamentals. No one would have thought it was possible. So no one can ever tell me that we can't rebuild Southern Illinois and bring it back. You know, you just need somebody who's really willing to do it, who's willing to spend the time, get to know the people, you know, bring some, and I don't mean that, I see Obama behind me here. I'm not talking about like hope and change for like the it's not a word, like you show it with action, right? You have to invest. You have to get on the phone and say, instead of going to Missouri, come to Illinois, right? Forget about St. Louis. Like, let's rebuild the Metro East. Let's rebuild Southern Illinois, that Cairo region. It doesn't flood. Cairo hasn't had a flood in over 100 years, but when you hear the news talk about it, because it's such a well-known area, they say, oh, the flood's in Cairo, right? So we've got to like do a lot of educating of electeds, of the press even, and start marketing our state from a perspective of, you know, Cairo's not competing against Chicago, but it is competing against, you know, Ohio or Kentucky. And so like we can do a better job of creating growth opportunities and investing in Southern Illinois in a way that will bring the jobs that will keep people in our state. And I think the first few years, we were just trying to survive, right? We were trying to be able to come up for air and be able to have people being paid within 30 days. I don't even think anybody would have thought 30 days was ever going to be a goal, right? That would have been like, oh, that'll never happen. What's totally happening? I've been paying bills under 30 days for a year now, Today we're at 14 days. And as long as my bills are under 30 days, that's really just the cost of doing business, right? We're paying faster than the private sector pays. Sometimes they pay 45 to 60 days, and that's still okay. So I think we're now in a rebuild mode, right? We could be like Lightning McQueen and start really taking a look at what's happening in Southern Illinois, the port project that's happening in Cairo. That's going to be an anchor to revitalizing that whole area. We have, the largest capital plan in the country right now, which is going to mean billions of dollars pouring into Illinois through infrastructure. And a lot of that's going to be going to Southern Illinois. These are all the foundational things that have to happen, Jermaine, to be able to kickstart a lifeline to that region of the state. And we're on our way. These things don't happen overnight, but I really, truly believe that there is a real focus on Southern Illinois like we haven't seen in a long time. And now that we're in a much better place financially, and I know Southern Illinois, I think, better than probably any controller ever has, because I spend so much time there. And I feel like there is a lot of opportunity. You can get sad about it, or you can be resolved to fix it. And I would rather be the latter. So we're on our way. I hear you. And if you have ideas for how we can make things better, I'm all ears, as I'm sure other people in the administration are as well.
Oh, that rocks.
Thank you.
Okay, next is
Susana Mendoza for governor in 2026.
I'm running for controller, re-election, baby.
Anyway, so Terry Marr has the next question. And Arlene, I saw your hand up and I put you down on the list after the people that were in the chat before you. And so you're on the list. Okay, go ahead, Terry Marr.
Okay, so you were talking about how you felt it was really important to put the most vulnerable at the front of the line to get paid. What I'm wondering is, why wasn't that the case in the first place?
I think it was by design.
Why?
I think Governor Rauner, it really all boils down to, like, he hates union with such a wild passion, and he wanted Illinois to be a right to work state. And Leslie Munger, who was his handpicked controller, she did whatever the governor asked her to do, right? She was not an independent entity from the governor. I mean, he and Ken Griffin financed her entire campaign, and, they put her there. So if vulnerable populations were being squeezed to death, Democrats, we care about people, right? I think their goal was to say, we're going to pit the unions against the Democratic base, because Democratic base is union, but it's also all the people that social service providers care about, right? So if we starve these folks, then the Democrats will be willing to say, sorry, we have to save these folks. And so we're going to turn on our brothers and sisters in organized labor. So this is what this whole thing was about. And ultimately, he didn't care about people with disabilities. I mean, if he had the nerve to cut autism funding on World Autism Day, it tells you where the priorities stood with that prior governor and his administration, which included his handpicked controller. Let me give you an example. 4 days before I took office, Terry, 4 days before I took office, they transferred, this is in the middle of the budget impasse. There was very little general revenue fund available to go to nursing homes or hospice care or anything like that. She transferred $73 million out of the general revenue fund to pay high-priced tech consultants like Deloitte, right? Instead of nursing homes and hospice care. I walked into the office and they hadn't been paid for 9 months. Yet high-priced tech consultants charging $4.50 an hour, who could have easily absorbed a delay in pay, were at the front of the line. It was the most immoral administration to ever serve. I wouldn't just say Illinois, probably any state. And they had no qualms about it. It was really kind of sick to see. And so when I opened up the books and I saw what happened, I go, this is just so wrong on so many levels. And I talked about it. I was very public about these numbers and what they did. But like, you can complain about it or you can just change it. And so on day one, I changed the prioritization of who got paid how in the controller's office. I wasn't paying bills as they came in. I paid them based on who was the most vulnerable population that really needed the money right now. And in those first 2 years, Terry, I felt like Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. You guys see that movie? Where it's like all these people are owed money by the bank, but there just isn't enough to go around, right? And he's like, well, I can't give, I know I owe you this, but can I give you $2? Right. And so for me, it was like, I know you're owed so much more. I'm so sorry, but what do you need to get by this week? Can I help you meet your payroll? That's what it was like to be me those first 2 years. It was brutal, but you also felt like we're in a position to like change the prioritization around. And so I had no qualms telling Deloitte and, you know, the other tech consultants that they could go, they're going to the back of the line and don't even bother me with a phone call because I'm busy taking care of nursing homes and hospice care and everybody else that was put at the back of the line in a very immoral way. So I make no apologies for that. None at all. And trust me, they've tried beating me up on it. Why am I not paying third-party lenders fast enough? I'm like, because they're not the most important to me. You know, sick old people and children and adults with disabilities are. Women in domestic violence shelters are, right? People who need critical resources for their families, they're at the front of the line. I make no apologies for it. That's what I got elected to do, and that's what I did. And so, you know, everybody who can absorb a delay, we had to ask them to absorb the delay. And I didn't lose sleep over that. I would lose sleep over somebody dying on my watch because they didn't get the medical care they needed if I had the ability to put them at the front of the line. So it's just really an issue of prioritization. And that's why I truly believe it matters who your controller is. Because at the end of the day, people don't understand that the controller of the state of Illinois does not work for the governor. I don't work for Governor Pritzker. I like working with Governor Pritzker, but I don't work for Governor Pritzker. I work for you. And I didn't work for Governor Rauner. Now, my predecessor, she did work for Governor Rauner, and she was his proud wingman, as she called herself. You know, I wasn't. I love Governor Pritzker. I think he's great. I think he's doing a wonderful job. But I've said it in public with him on stage that I love working with him, but I don't work for him. And it's really important to remember that the controller needs to be an independent entity. He's doing a great job. I'll be a great cheerleader. If he screws up, I'm going to call him out on it. And that's what you should expect me to do, or whoever serves in this role. Really was created to be an independent entity. And by constitution and by actual charter, I decide who gets paid when. I don't appropriate dollars, but once those have been appropriated by the legislature and signed into a budget by the governor, once those bills get sent to my office, because those debts have been incurred, I decide how I want to pay them, who gets what, when. And so maybe that's something that most people don't know. The governor doesn't tell me how to pay a bill. I decide. And that's why it's really important to make sure that the person who holds this office has a strong moral compass, has shared values that put people first. You know, like I said, to me, if we do nothing else right as a state, let's start by taking care of the people who can't take care of themselves. If we do that, everything else is going to work itself out. And here's the other like almost criminal thing about this, Terry, is that putting Medicaid bills, which is what the prior administration did, at the back of the line. Medicaid had to sue the state of Illinois to get paid because they were at the back of the line. Medicaid bills are where I get my biggest federal match. Think about how negligent that was. Not only are you not doing the morally correct thing, you're leaving billions of dollars in federal matching funds uncollected. So, you know, I've been able to cut that bill backlog down as quickly as I have because I've strategically targeted bills that make me feel good doubly because I'm doing the right thing by people who are vulnerable. And I'm also stretching the value of each one of those dollars. And so when you can turn $1 of state taxpayer money into $1.56, which is I get a 56 cents match now these days with the pandemic, you know, that's what you should be doing anyway. But on top of that, it's also the fiscally sound approach. So there's your question. I know I just talked forever about this. Here's the best answer. Terry, why did they do that? Because they were bad people and it was inexcusable. That's the best answer I can give you.
Controller Mendoza, we're so excited to have you here with us tonight. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you with us is because we're all going to get out and work as hard as we can to get you reelected. And we need those words, you know, we need your stories. We need to hear what you've just told us so we can spread the word. So it makes it easier for us when now we're finally going to be able to knock on doors and really get out and work hard for you. So we thank you ever so much for spending the time with us tonight, for doing all the great work that you're doing, for championing the state of Illinois and for bringing us back to fiscal responsibility. It's wonderful not to be embarrassed about the financial status of the state of Illinois. And we have to correct it because a lot of people don't realize how much better it is. And now you've given us the words to be able to do that. So we thank you for being with us tonight. And we thank all of our participants. We had a big group here tonight, and I hope you're seeing the chat and seeing how much people really do appreciate all the work that you've done. And we thank everyone for being here, and we're a little over time, so we're going to say goodnight to everyone and be safe. And thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me. And ladies, go out there and get them. This is ours, right? This is ours. We cannot let all of the progress that we made slip behind. You know, we got a battle of the billionaires, unfortunately. But there's like the dark side and the, you know, the other side, right? So we're like, it's like Luke Skywalker versus, you know, the Darth Maul. So we have got to get out there and mobilize and take nothing for granted in this election cycle. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate your support. We have great news to talk about. So take full ownership of it. Don't let these naysayers take credit for being fiscal stewards when they are like fiscal wrecking balls, you know, and we have to end up cleaning it up, but we've cleaned it up. We're on our way out of this. I used to say like we could see light between the trees, but we weren't out of the woods yet. I mean, literally, we're coming out of the dark now. We're seeing some sunshine on us, and we're going to keep this forward momentum going. I promise you. Let's just get out there, work hard, and get the whole ticket reelected. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I'll see you on the trail.
You are so inspiring.
Thank you for everything. Take good care.
Thanks,
and
ladies.
We'll say
Bye-bye.
Good night to all. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. It was a very exciting night.
Thank you for having these great guests.
Oh, well, thank you for your good questions.
Oh, Jermaine, you did have a great question. You rock.
Yeah, it was great. Wonderful. Thank you all.
Man, I tell you what, I didn't realize what a good person Susana Mendoza is. I mean, I knew she was good, but I didn't realize how wonderful.
Yeah,
and you so impressed.
Yeah,
and the senator too.
Awesome.
They're just very sweet, personable people.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign off because I'm in kind of an odd situation.
But then you'll sign off the whole. You'll sign off everybody because you're.
Yes, I'll sign off the meeting.
Anyway, by the way, Jermaine, to ask Cindy because she's dealt with her a lot and had wonderful things to say. Okay.
Okay.
Good
night, all.
We're going to be canvassing on Friday together, so I'll talk to her about it for sure. And about these wonderful guests. I knew Tammy Duckworth was way cool. I've heard her speak, but I guess I'd never heard Susanna speak. She is so impressive.
You only need to hear her once. She's great.
Through, you know?
As I mentioned, I was actually glad that Champaign didn't have a women's march in 2018 because it made me go to Springfield and she would, like I said, like I told her, truly, I can't remember any of the other speakers except for her. She was so good.
Yeah, I could see why.
Yeah.
Good night, all. I think she's governor material. I think she's senator or governor material.
Okay.
I seriously think.
Yeah, you can go ahead and end the meeting, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Take good care.
Good night.
Good night.